Mysterious traveler always traveling to the east. Please, adventurer, stay a while and listen. I thought it, in keeping that, since I was a bit early, a bit late last week, I would start a bit early this week. And I have many things to discuss. Yo! Hey Mohit, man, you were like right on the money. Cowman the Gods here. Sam, hey, how's it going, guys? Nice to see ya. Ooh, have I got some goodies for you this week, including a whole bunch of dragons from Spelljammer, a list of all dragons, because we're getting close, and a lot of people have been asking me. Hi, Mark. A lot of people have been asking me how many dragons I've got left to go in my dragon series, the epic dragon series. Axe Poison! Hey Trey. And yeah, I wanted your opinions on what monsters I should be doing next on my list. And I was going to discuss this week Spelljammer, weird critters that I've found from all sorts of old editions that I can bring to you, and what are my plans as the full-time Gluestick. Yeah, dragons are always good. Well, the numbers don't lie, man. I mean, that got mad views on that orange dragon, way more than I thought it would. So people are obviously very keen for more dragons. I mean, they do call it Dungeons and Dragons. England, I don't know. Probably okay. Are you just ribbing me, man? I'm clearly not from England, bro. Or maybe I sound English compared to your average Kiwi. Yeah, so getting stuck into it. I've got some weird extra dimensional creatures. Yes, you do. So there's a couple that I found from the Spelljammer monster appendices from 2nd edition. Oh, and the blueprint for a Lich, because I'm going to be redoing the Lich video soon. And those of you who enjoyed the original Lich video, bear in mind that was before I did a lot of exhaustive research and things like that on videos. That was just basically me spieling off what my opinion of Liches were. Now I have all of the resources to bring you a fully realized Lich video that goes into the details. So for instance, in a very early issue of The Dragon, Dragon magazine, there is the recipe, the formula for how to create a Lich. So that's pretty cool. So I'll be bringing you that, as well as all the different types of liches that you can get, including there's a lich from Spelljammer, which is basically a big ball of fire, and yeah, all that info. So it's going to be a huge video, but it's going to be probably one of the more well researched ones on liches. Butt mustard. Yeah, thanks, Tony. It's I'm a mixture of nervous and excited about going full-time on YouTube, because, you know, giving up a steady paycheck at a reasonably good job at a laboratory to follow your passions. But I recommend to everybody, you know, you'll hear it very often that you follow your dreams. If you can find something that you love to do, that you consider a hobby, and you can make money out of it, absolutely do it. And so, I mean, you guys enjoy the content that I bring you, and I love doing it. So let's see where it goes. And if you ever see me getting gaunt and thin, you know, subscribe to Patreon and give me some money, because I'll be starving to death. But I should be okay. I should be all right. I think I've calculated everything all right. But yeah, it's a risk, you know. I bought myself a fishing rod just in case I have to live off what I catch out of the sea. So we'll see how it goes. My schedule for streaming is every weekend. At this specific time is when I stream. So in California, it'll be about 7 p.m. or so, and that's where I hit. That's where I base it. Over here in New Zealand, it's 2 p.m. on a Sunday. Over there, it's about 7 p.m. on a Saturday, which is, I did a survey of people, and that was the reasonably best time that we could accommodate. I could probably do an earlier stream, and I'll be doing more streams when I am doing this full time, and that is on the 23rd or the 22nd for you guys, the 23rd here. That is my last day as an employed person, and then I'm basically running my own company, and that company is me. So yeah. Gothka 7. What are you talking about, Mohit? I don't understand. 7 p.m. Yeah. Okay. What's Gothka? I don't know. New Zealand, a glorious country where subsistence fishing is actually feasible. Well, it depends if you're good at fishing. I probably am not, but I'm gonna learn. But yes, you can actually go out and just like get food and stuff. Yeah, everything grows lovely in New Zealand. It really is like Hopperton. Yeah. 137, only 137 more subs to go to 20k. Oh, God. I haven't completed my sculpture. I've got so much more to do. I hope the person who wins it is patient with me. Yes, Ruben, actually, good that you should mention that. I produced one line of shirts. Unfortunately, there was a mix-up in communication with Josh, the artist. It was entirely my fault, and my apologies to Josh about that. The artwork that I had on the background and stuff for YouTube, I put that on some t-shirts, and that was not part of our original agreement. We didn't discuss that, so I had to retract that off the market. So I'm currently working on my own artwork for it, which is in progress here. I'm going to get a sneak preview. It's just line art at the moment. It's kind of big, and I don't know if it's going to turn up very well on cam. But essentially it's a black dragon fighting a beholder. This is the mid-range image, and it's going to be over top of like a dungeon-y type setting with my logo on it as well. It's a bit busy just in black and white, but when it's got some color on it, it'll look a little bit better. Oh yeah, you get a rough idea. Lots of squiggles and lines. It's going to be okay. And yeah, I'll be putting out some merch when I can devote the proper amount of time to doing the artwork and stuff for it. What are Titans in D&D like? Empyreans and such? Yeah, well, that's essentially... How do we... You just enter by being a subscriber. Empyreans are the Titans, essentially. That's exactly the sort of stat block and stuff you should be using for them. Empyreans are essentially demigods. Yeah, sub. That's all you got to do. So yeah, the shirts and stuff, I'll probably release that as a print as well, I guess. And we'll see what the best option for that is. For the last 3 months, or for the last 2 months, I've been partnered up with a YouTube management agency called Talency. And that was on a 3-month trial. Unfortunately, I didn't see the results and things that Talency was promising me when they signed me up. So I'll be ending that 3-month trial and just being completely independent and solo like I was before. Because I did discover that really I was doing everything right in the first place. I didn't really need any help. So that's fine. Also, a lot of people have noticed that the ads got rearranged on some of my older videos, which has really pissed me off quite a bit, because I have to go back and fix all of that. Because the way they do it is that the average watch time on my videos is 9 minutes, and so they decided to cram all the ads into the first 10 minutes of the videos of what could be a half-hour long video. Which makes sense from a greedy point of view, but that's not how I operate. I just want people who watch the entire video to have a few ads every 5 minutes or so. Like an ad every 5 minutes. Not too much to ask if it's just like a little banner ad or skippable. It doesn't cost anybody anything, and it helps support me doing this full time. So yeah, gonna have to drop Talency, unfortunately. Some of the subscription-based software that allows you to do analytics and stuff that is available through that really opened my eyes up as to how useful that is. So I'll probably be continuing on with some of that stuff. But as for the agency itself, they wanted to take like 20% of the amount of money that I was earning off YouTube, and then saying that's pretty standard, but it's way too much for what they were doing. Yeah, but anyway, that's the back end of things that I've been dealing with. And just trying to work out exactly what my finances and stuff shall be. So yeah, I don't have any sponsors or anything like that for the channel. It's just you guys watching the videos, all the great people who go back and watch the entire playlist and put up with the awful sound and stuff which is on the earlier videos, and the Patreons. Patrons on Patreon are basically getting me food to eat. It's essentially where that money goes, is food and utilities, so I don't starve to death. Yeah. Hopefully in future I'll be moving into somewhere a little bit cheaper to live. This place is nice, but it's way too much. It's too much. So I'll be moving somewhere either smaller, or I'll be moving on to the orchard and looking after my folks who are getting on a bit, and they need somebody to help out looking after things, which means that I'll be away from the city and my friends, and so I'll have nothing but YouTube to concentrate on. It's another reason why I bought the fishing rods, is so that I don't go crazy and stay inside all day making videos, although I'm sure some would be okay with this. So back to D&D. Big long rant about what I'm going to be doing. Oh, good question. Seeing a vid that shows how you can turn a dungeon that would merely be a backdrop from the adventure into an actual interactive part of the adventure would be fun. Yeah, for sure. Like some of the things that sort of spill out and from the dungeons into the outside world, or things that let you key into the fact that there could be a dungeon around. Yeah, and I haven't done one on Inevitables yet, but I do plan on doing that, because I'm getting into the Immortals and the Abominations, so things from the Astral Sea and stuff. So legend and lore about dungeons is certainly a part of your game world, because living in D&D, particularly the Forgotten Realms, is based on the very bedrock idea of Forgotten Realms is that there's been successive layers of empires that have built over top of each other, and that wherever you go in the Forgotten Realms, there's generally a dungeon somewhere around that's some lost city or lost civilization, going back to the Age of Thunder with the creator races, all the way up to like the nobility of the sort of French English Cormyreans and things like that. But everything's built on top of everything else. So yeah. Nice question. Definitely. Yeah, so dragons. I have done many dragons. I've still got to do the battle dragons, the chaos dragons, the ethereal dragons, the howling dragons, the Oceanus dragons. I think I mentioned them. Radiant dragons. A lot of people have asked me about Radiant dragons. They're part of the epic dragons. The prismatic and radiant dragons are part of the epic dragon things. I've done rust dragons. The Styx dragon is going to be coming up in a special feature, and also there's the lesser dragons, or the dragon kin, which includes the Lenorms, which people have been hassling me about as well. I definitely want to get the land worms done, lava worms, yeah, that sort of stuff, and dragons from folklore and things. Also from Spelljammer, there's the stellar dragon, the moon dragon, and the sun dragon, which are going to be coming up very soon. So I'll be talking about those ones as well. So lots of dragons still to go for sure. And these are two weird creatures. One is called the Fractine, and the other one is called the Missy. Fractine is essentially a two-dimensional mirrored trapezoidal plane that's alive, and yeah, it causes a variety of harmful distortional effects when it attacks you. So that's going to be a cool video. I like bringing stuff to people which they can put in their game where the players have never heard of anything like it before and just don't know how to deal with it, like they're being attacked by a flying mirror type creature. And the Missy is it's a pack of four-dimensional creatures, so they have no direct means of inflicting physical injury on ordinary beings. Instead, they rely on indirect methods to defend themselves, interfering with any magic being used at the time, especially magic powering Spelljammer ships and anything that anybody's carrying on them. So creatures that cause your magical items to go haywire is very cool. Styx dragons come sail away playing in the background on that video. Styx, yeah, like the river Styx, but yeah, I see what you mean. That's funny. What's the most dangerous type of lesser dragon or proto dragon? Probably the Lenorms are really bad. The Chaos Drake is definitely up there, because some of the Lenorms, the landworms, can get really big. So yeah, and I've done a video about the drakes and things like that. But I don't know. I'll get more into it as I investigate, and because a lot of these dragons I've never heard of either until I start doing videos on them. I know a fair bit about them, but yeah, I learn as I go as well. So you're learning along with me. We're all becoming PhDs in D&D. I'd like to get a bit on how layer effects work and also some of your ideas on how to implement them. I can see them being an opportunity to build tension if done correctly. Absolutely. I would love to do a video on layer effects. In fact, I'm going to note that down for you. Also, I've got a question for you guys in regards to using tools. So how specifically do tools and proficiency and skills work in D&D for your game? What's the official rules on using tools? Do you have to be proficient in the tool? How do you become proficient in a tool? Can you just pick up and buy a set of tools and then use it and gain the proficiency bonus without actually being skilled in that particular thing? Or like, what's the point of having tools if you have proficiency in something? That's what I'd like to know. So, layer effects. Definitely a good subject. I could talk about layer effects for quite some time. Yeah, legendary actions for sure, but layer effects can also be non-legendary creatures as well. How a dungeon might exist in different planes in which you need to interact with things in different versions of the dungeon in a different plane. Wow, that's a good idea. You guys are giving me some real good video fodder today. Multi-planar dungeons. See, this is the thing. When I go full-time, I'll have more time to do more videos. And if I can, I'll do my usual couple of creature videos a week, at least. And also have time to do extra video series as well. So doing something like on running the game, running encounters and things with just that sort of stuff. So planar effects and how to run a dungeon in the 9 hells, for instance, or different layers of different places. You know, you guys could give me examples from your campaigns or upcoming stuff in your campaigns that you want me to design adventures for, particularly those of you who are patrons. All you got to do is subscribe to be a patron and you get priority on any requests you give me. So the patrons don't really take full advantage of this. I wish they would give me more requests. Like, for instance, the Genasi video was a patron request and I got onto that straight away. Everything else gets shelved and that gets done as soon as possible. So yeah, things like layer effects and stuff like that for sure. Good fodder for videos. I'd say tools are required to do said proficiency in most cases. Like, you can dig a hole with your hands, but you have funding a stable tunnel through a stone without a pickaxe. Sure. Yep. Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, it's very hard to pick a lock without a lockpick set. I was thinking it might get a penalty to checks when using tools you're not skilled in using. Right, but you can still do it. So somebody who doesn't have skill in lockpicking, for instance, who has a lockpicking set, can sort of muddle their way through it. Yeah. I've done a little foray into the Feywild, but I'm going to be doing a lot more Fey stuff as I delve into the Tome of Beasts, because there's a lot of Fey stuff in there. So that'll sort of flesh out Fey lore as well as I go. And then I'll create a Fey playlist for people who are basing things. Eventually, I want to have playlists for all sorts of different environments. So essentially, the playlist could be like almost like a random roll table of things that you can encounter in those particular terrains and things. So turn it into a real, an audio-visual archive, much like an expanded Dungeons and Dragons sourcebook. Eventually. I mean, it's going to take me years. Had a conversation with a friend on setting a campaign in a land where a major event is happening in the background, a Tarrasque rampage, a Modron March. Oh yeah, the Modron March is great for that sort of thing. You can set an entire campaign after being a caravan train that follows after the Modron March, for instance. Although it doesn't protect you from things, and as they start marching through the lower plains, it could become an exercise in tragedy because so many Modrons get killed. How would you go about including influence of those major things in a way that still lets low-level players feel that they are in charge of their own destiny? Well, essentially in 5th edition, everything is on a sort of level playing field anyway. Like, for instance, if you have a Tarrasque or something like that, which is attacking a major city, you've stirred up some forgotten horror from somewhere. All you have to do is run away. That's the best thing to do. Run for the safety of civilization, and then you've got numbers on your side, because more than anything, it's the number of creatures which are thrown against somebody that overpowers them in 5th edition. It's not the individual toughness of a creature per se. It's the combination of attacks and effects they can do, and how many of them there are. So if you have a combination of, say, ghouls and rot grubs, it can quickly wipe out a party because they become paralyzed and can't defend themselves against the rot grubs. Everybody dies. So it's relatively low level stuff can be absolutely deadly. You can take out anybody with that combo if they don't manage to save against, particularly if you've got some sort of magical item or something like that that influences their saving throws, for instance, or they're exhausted and they've got 1 level of exhaustion and all of a sudden they've got disadvantage on saving throws. So, you know, it can be pretty mean. Is it disadvantage on saving throws? Levels of exhaustion can be absolutely devastating. Would a steel dragon set up an orphanage? Absolutely. Yep. And they would stick with those orphans throughout their lives. So they could take on one persona, one shapeshifted shape as a person who runs the orphanage, and then they could take on another shapeshifted persona as somebody who trains them, and then another shapeshifted persona is somebody who hires them and employs them for a quest. So the steel dragon could actually do the entire be the patron the entire time. So that could be kind of cool. Oop, I'm missing something. What's that about time cops? Inevitables deal with things who alter time and break oaths to powerful deities. Yes, absolutely. So things that get in the way of law, cosmic law. So the Raven Queen could be argued that she works like an inevitable. She is absolutely against anything coming back from the dead that shouldn't. And the inevitables basically deal with anything that, like, for instance, uses wish spells too much, or suborns the natural order of things, or does something like kills angels. The inevitables don't like that. So the immortals, if you go around killing immortals, for instance, or if you're attempting to kill a god, which could disrupt a portfolio, the inevitables will be your bane, for sure. Right. That's what this chat's all about. You guys get to ask me questions, and yeah, I get to ask you questions as well. If you have tools but not the proficiency, isn't it already covered for not being proficient instead of adding a penalty? See, the question marks in your statement is the same thing with me. It's just I'm not entirely clear on it. It's one of those rules that I've never been particularly clear on. How would I go about, yeah, like using impromptu sets of picks to pick a lock? The actual real picks are better. Absolutely. Perhaps it's something that could be expanded on. Like, I'd like Mike Merles to have a chat about that, like exactly how you use tools and things, because it's plainly something that they use and consider obvious by the way they've written it. It's just sort of, you just use some tools, blah. So it's like, what's the point of using tools? Like, in the rules as written, you don't need tools. You just have proficiency and you're fine. So if you don't have tools, but the task requires tools, do you not get your proficiency bonus? Even if you're skilled? That's a bit of a rip-off, but it would be understandable. It would make it almost a requirement that somebody buys and uses tools. Something which is an expendable resource that wears down as the characters progress in the adventure. I could see that working. Hello everybody at Discord. Hello Axe Poison. Oops, it's scrolling past me. Hey Jet, how's it going, man? Nice of you to join us. By the way, everybody should check out, there's a zombie game called Infected. It's a great game. Shout out to Jet. Could you see a silver dragon becoming an adopted parent, actually cling to the child after he finds or rejoins his parents? Yeah, that would happen. It would work for a young silver dragon, something, you know, around the 100-year age mark. As they get older though, and they've formed an attachment to a much like a mortal creature, they'll start to regard them as little more than pets, because the heartbreak of losing a companion is quite severe. So they basically take on that immortal mindset of I'm going to live for thousands of years. I can't get too attached to these things. They're basically just pets. They're only going to live for, you know, it's the equivalent of something that lives for 10 years or less for us, you know. So yes, they can be as attached to a human as we would be attached to a cat or a dog. Most welcome, sir. Hey, hey. What else have we got? Sorry, I'm skipping past some questions. Perhaps the beholder, is that just me? Like a steam golem, you would need to keep it fueled with water and repair its body, as it may start to decay and break down. Yeah, I like the idea of having stronger creatures, stronger elements of the game, particularly things that have a limited use in the game. Like, for instance, that's why I've got no problems with firearms in the game, because nobody manufactures bullets in Faerun. So you're going to run out of ammunition for your gun, and therefore it's little better than a Wand of Magic Missile. Wand of Magic Missile is actually more effective than a firearm because it never misses. With a firearm, you can definitely miss, and you've got a limited amount of ammo that can't be recharged like a magic wand can. So really, I don't see what people's problems with guns are. If you don't want guns in your game, then don't include them in the game, but don't throw scorn on anybody who uses them in their games. I think that is a disadvantage on a tool check that you are not proficient with, if I remember right. So anybody can still attempt a skill, and if you don't have proficiency in it, then you have disadvantage. So again, it's kind of why. Sorry, Fabius Maximus, to clarify my earlier question, which is a bit buried, by the great game I was referring to Zorvental? Is that the game where they played in South America with the big rubber ball and they would smack it with the weights on the hips to get it through a hoop? That sounds about right. So you could have an inevitable standoff to the side, observing, and documenting the casting of a wish by the party, only interfering if it violates cosmic law. That sounds like a fun and entertainment. So everybody's like, what's that thing doing here? Yeah, that's a great idea. Damn. I know on the railroad people break tools a lot when first starting out. When you get the hang of it, they last much longer. Maybe you can have the tools to have a chance to get damaged in the same way. Yeah, for sure. Weapons should be damaged too, but that's just me. I mean, that was a thing in the old days. What is the strangest, most powerful creature that was tamed by you or your party? Did it change the dynamics of your team's strategy? Probably an owlbear. And it took chunks out of us more often than not. I would be an evil dragon. I'm not a pet person. Some people are pet people. I'm definitely a pet person. The fact that I don't have a pet at the moment weighs on me heavily. Hi AJ, I've been binge watching you for last week. Also, great stuff, dude. What possessed you to start doing this? Funny old story that. Originally I started out as a crafting channel, hence the name The Mighty Gluestick, because I did a lot of dungeon terrain and stuff for D&D. I did a lot of printed terrain, which I turned into sort of semi 3D terrain. And then one particular day I was doing a video on a roper, and a friend of mine, Gareth from the DMG Info, suggested that I start doing monster ecology videos because I had a knack for it, and I've never stopped. And it turns out it was wildly popular. So yeah, I have a knack for it, and I love doing it. So in my game, I have a charming evil NPC who's in a romantic relationship with one of my PCs. Okay, that always ends well. The NPC's goal is to learn more about the party and lead them away from the main enemy cult of the campaign. My question is, how can I make this NPC appear to be more trustworthy than he already is? Essentially, just be your natural charming self at the table. Don't give the players anything to suspect. So don't overly don't overly give them clues that something bad is going on. So just like glibly say, oh yeah, he's going to help you do this, or he's going to help you do that. Yeah. Particularly if the NPC is very complimentary of the players and suggests that they're there to learn from them. So they want to be an adventurer themselves. That always works. I've had some obviously evil betray little kobolds who toady up to the players in my campaigns, and they always fall for it. And then the inevitable curse, their inevitable betrayal. The kobold turns on the players and it's like, well, it works for a dragon. What do you expect? They're like, of course it does. Always thought that was why elves and Vulcans, space elves, always acted super aloof. Yeah, because of that whole longer lifespan thing. Yeah, for sure. Couldn't bear the thought of getting attached to some short-lived race and then watching them get old and die on them. Yeah, and also the reason why, you know, if you start dating some elven girl, the parents are going to be like, "What are you doing, Mildred? Don't get with this guy. He's one of the lesser races." There's no such thing as PC talk in Dungeons and Dragons, I'd imagine. You should run a session through the stream. Aha, yeah, with 50 people playing. No, I probably won't be doing a lot of broadcast games, but I'm going to be playing a lot of games in the background just to keep myself entertained when I'm doing this full time. Do you sell that shirt behind me? Oh, the Straight Out of Faerun shirt. No, I don't. I got that from T-Stream, I believe it was. Yeah. So yeah, it's one of the designs. This is also one of the designs that I got from them as well. It says, "I like my coffee, like my magic," and it's got a picture of Baphomet looking over a spell book. I particularly like this one. It is a pretty good shirt. Remember when you could subdue a dragon and get them on your side? It was in the old box sets. The dragon would say, "Stay your alignment so long as you were alive." One of those old weird rules. Wow, that is an interesting rule. And weird, yeah. They certainly don't do it that way these days. Hey, thanks for the donation, Michael Frost. Thank you very much. Looking for inspiration for a PC Mind Flayer group. Any books or movies you could suggest? Well, the Alithiad, my video on that, as a player group. So are they like rogues separated from an elder brain? How are you managing it? Because as soon as they come in contact with an elder brain, it'll just take them all over. So that could be interesting. I don't know. I've never run anything like that. I could use a clash check system with weapons. So when you block with them, you roll a natural 1 or 2 on a hit check. You roll a clash check. Yeah, that works. Like a rolling of a natural 1 on a melee attack with a weapon that can be damaged. You should certainly consider it. I usually roll to confirm on that sort of situation where if they roll a 1, then you roll again, and if it's like under 10, they've confirmed their 1 and something bad happens, like they lose their weapon and it flies out of their hand or something like that, they slip over on something. If your weapon loses either durability or reduce the damage of it, yeah, that's the old rules. Oh man, I'm getting so behind on these. So you must perform maintenance checks on your golems. Yep. Get some sleep, you maniac. Me? I'm fine. Ever think of doing a series on the factions of Faerun, the Harpers, etc.? Or you keep staying to the monsters? Well, yeah, I would like to. I do concentrate on the monsters, obviously, and that's got to continue because if there's one thing I've learned about YouTube, it's keep giving people what they want, and people want monster videos from me. They don't really want any crafting videos from me, but I'm going to pop them in every now and then, and I'm certainly going to pop in other topics now that I've got more time to devote to making bonus videos. So hopefully the people who see me post videos on factions and specific locations and stuff in Faerun won't crucify me too much, because I'll keep putting out the same amount of monster videos, I swear. Chess but with countries, yeah. just an obscure piece of lore. It's a game with ancient dragons play as a substitute for open war, which will also be destructive. It's like chess, but much more complicated. Was that the one that the great big red dragon god played with Anam Allfather, the creator deity of the giants? Is that the game that they played against each other? Because that basically they came to a stalemate and ended the war with the giants and the dragons. So that's an interesting bit of lore. Can be cool. Thank you. Yeah, I like that Illithid video. It's much better than my original one. Alhoons. Oh yeah, for sure. Alhoons, independent mind flayers. Of course, there's going to be towering egos involved in that. If they're playing Alhoons correctly, then they're going to be domineering. Yeah. Of course, when they're away from the Mind Flayer Elder Brain, then they can learn magic and things like that. They won't be subdued by the collective. I have a very primitive tribe of goblins. My evil PCs are trying to recruit. Any ideas? Food is the main thing that they will want, but goblins are just pretty evil, little greedy, take everything sort of guys anyway. It's like goblins have been so ingrained that other races never help them, that they just steal as a matter of fact, because no alliance is permanent for goblins. It's always goblins look after goblins first. So the other thing is to don't schmooze the goblins too much, like beat the hell out of them, keep them cowed through suppression and fear and pain. So give them food and beat the hell out of them on a regular basis. And that's essentially what you do. That's why they're quite often ruled by a strong thug bully, because they're goblinoids. The strongest lead them. So they've got respect for those who can beat the crap out of them. Thanks, Ohan. You got carpal tunnel from crafting on EverQuest. Yeah, this is like hot glue and that sort of stuff. But I'll be doing more sculpting as well, which is something I've been sort of I've been looking forward to getting back into sculpting a lot more. The Shadowfell is a good location. There's not enough information on the Shadowfell. There should be more. Spending spell slots to keep a golem magically fueled. Yeah, for sure. I agree, Fabius. It would be hard to implement it if you could have it so that strange things are happening. Like dragons have a tendency to have agents, minions. Even blue dragons particularly blue dragons. They're like mafiosos who would influence societies around them. And silver dragons and gold dragons for sure, brass dragons and things. They would have a game going on in the background. Giants, not so much. They stay aloof from things. But they just sort of rise up and crush whatever is getting too close to them. Would kobolds serve a steel dragon? Yes, you can have good aligned kobolds, for sure. Also, this is another thing which bothers me with alignment and people talking about evil creatures or good creatures. Kobolds are not evil to dragons. They revere dragons, so they don't do anything nasty to dragons. So that from the dragon's point of view, the kobolds are lovely little creatures. Like they're the gnomes of Dragonland, right? It's only when kobolds are dealing with evil mammals that they become evil. They don't deal with dragons in that sort of way. And they're not mean. Like if it's just a party with mostly dragonborn, for instance, the kobolds will be deferential and friendly. They won't be evil. They'll do evil things to other races. That's kind of the way alignment works in a way. You usually listen to my videos at double speed? Really? I'm a Kiwi, man. I speak much faster than Americans. Something which I've discovered on Discord. No offense to any of you Discord people, but when I'm talking to you in chat, speed up. It's like you've got this habit of pausing and for effect. I think of it like scientists now and the paranormal, they don't fully understand it. Any chance on a Lamia video? Yes, Yep. Did I not do a Lamia video? I did Lamia and Jackalwares, I think it was, as a combined video. So if you look up Lamia and Jackalwares, RIP 5E alignment, or is that RIP? Why did Mind Flayers dislike magic? Because they find it inferior. You watch my videos at 2 times speed. Good grief. I might try that myself, see what it sounds like. Not sure how many classes would be available for your Mind Flayer. Well, if the Mind Flayer PCs are truly outside of a Mind Flayer community, the hive, then anything's possible. Particularly if they use magic which allows them to disguise themselves, like hats of disguise and things, or polymorph, for instance. There's nothing that stops Mind Flayers from polymorphing into a humanoid form. So that's a possibility. Yeah, the problem with using magic is that it can be dispelled. Psychic power is not so easy to defend against. So Mind Flayers can take out a beholder, for instance, using Mind Blasts. What would you say is your best area of D&D lore? Well, at the moment, probably one of the most complete is dragons. Yeah, probably dragons so far. But we'll see. We'll see what I can do. Ever had any interest in doing a video about the various weird breaks in the 5e system? For example, the peasant railgun. What is a peasant railgun? I am unfamiliar with that one, Brent. No, they understand magic and they use it. Like, for instance, spelljamming and things like that. They definitely use magic. But they find it more convenient to use living creatures, life energy, and psionics. Because life is an abundant resource in the multiverse. Whereas magic is, in many ways, it's largely dependent on the gods. Because if you take away the gods, for instance, then you get a world like Athos or Kryn. Kryn's on its way to becoming Athos, unless the gods come back. And Athos is a world where the primordials got rid of the gods, and the result is anybody who uses magic destroys the environment and destroys the land. That's why Athos has become this great big wasteland, because magic is very disruptive. In many ways, the use of magic is regulated by deities, and deities are overpowers that Mind Flayers don't want to tolerate. So Mind Flayers don't use magic because it makes them beholden to other powers. Essentially, they see it as inferior. Oh yeah, Mind Flayers on a mission of infiltration from the Elder Brain. Yeah, perhaps. They don't really operate like that though. They don't send out Mind Flayers per se. They'll send out minions. 100 or more peasants in a row using their action to pass along an object or a gnome. If they do it all in one round, then the object will reach any speed, therefore boom. Well, Brent, that's ridiculous. Maybe it's possible in the rules, but that's without applying rule number 1, which is, well, actually rule number 2 is common sense. Rule number 1, of course, is if it's fun, do it. Is there a psionic class? There's Mystic. I don't think they've really expanded a lot on psionics. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're still waiting for a proper psionic class. Yeah, 3.5 3rd edition, 3.5 had a lot more psionic stuff, but psionics has been around since you had a chance of having a psychic character in 1st edition, 2nd edition. 3 and 3.5 really expanded on it quite a lot. Yeah, older editions, you're going to have Scions and Soul Blades and all that sort of stuff. I think I've heard about that one, Brent. Yeah, no, I don't lay that insanity on you at all. Yeah, no, I think I've heard about it previously. But like broken rules are generally manifestations of people who are taking the piss out of the game, or they're doing it to annoy their DM. So it's like I always say, if your friendship's good, then the rules don't matter. But if you're using the rules to piss somebody off, then you're just being a dick, you know. However, on the other hand, if you find a really good rule combo, or like a spell combo or something that screws over a monster because there's no way for it to defend against it, then yay, your character's a hero. You know, everybody's got a chance to be clever. How do I feel about the Artificer class? I don't have any feelings about the Artificer class. I haven't played one. My friend Ian likes playing Artificers and things. He likes doing that sort of stuff. I like just having characters that are clever enough to build things anyway, like the segmented pole that halflings and gnomes use. That's one of my things that's a staple in my game. Forge magical weapons. Yep. I know that magical weapons are forged. Like if anybody's read The Name of the Wind, you'd see that it's pretty obvious that magic academies and things like that are factories that produce magical items, because in order to fund themselves, they would make useful, wondrous items for people, and they would be a form of testing of the students and things, so that they would understand the principles of magic and stuff in a controlled environment. Like if you watch Harry Potter and stuff, they've all got feathers and wands and things to learn one simple spell mechanic, and they're all there's a lot of physical magical stuff that goes on in those academies. That's why they need to house them and protect them. Good, Brent. I think a fair amount of insanity is required to come up with really good ideas for a game. Then play, Matt D. You're more than welcome. Psionics have been around since Smell Sound. True. How about the Elderite Brain has been recently replaced by an Aboleth and is using the Illithid for selfish and destructive purpose to the Illithid? Yeah, certainly. That's a good idea, Cashon. How could you run a chase scene naval battle without meticulous grid movements? Essentially make it so that it's rolls and checks against the environment, and you roll for random stuff popping up in the environment that can happen, like a breaching whale, flying fish, a squall, you know, all sorts of environmental effects. And if you're in a dungeon or a city or something like that, there's always stuff going on in these places. They're not static environments. So if you're chasing through it and you're not preparing, like you can run straight into a trap, which can certainly slow you down, or you'll run into a wandering patrol of monsters, or you'll run into a patch of ooze or something. That's the sort of place where running straight into a gelatinous cube is a very real possibility, because you don't see it until you run straight into it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the movement rates and stuff for ships are still there. It's just not a very complicated system, because it doesn't really need to be very complicated for movement. Difficult terrain slows your movement down, and stopping for encounters and moving into sort of tactical speed is also a consideration, particularly if you've got sea creatures that can move faster than you. Or if you run into a dragon turtle, for instance, they've got a movement of something like 60 in the water. It's pretty impressive. I wouldn't call in a Illithid without an Elder Brain free so much as lost. Yeah, they've lost their connection. Like, that's like us being without the internet. There's a very strong compulsion for mind flayers to be a part of that mental network, because they gain way more than they lose from it. They don't see themselves, they do see themselves as individuals, but they're a part of that gestalt of minds, which is incredibly addictive. It's like, it would literally like be losing your internet connection, and all of a sudden you can't Google anything. It'd drive you crazy. But you know, and then you'd turn to what's the equivalent? Telnet, you know, you'd be hanging outside of supermarkets reading the messages on their public notice boards. That's what magic would be like to you. Ugh. I have to read these things instead of having psychic power to understand the nuances of the living universe around you. You have to rely on these formulas which are stuck to an old spell book, which you don't even understand entirely what they do or what powers they're drawing on, in order to manipulate reality in ways that are entirely predictable. Yeah, but I mean, it's possible to have a mind flayer illithid. I mean, a mind flayer lich, for instance. So they exist, and they don't have psychic powers because they've got no living brain. Is The Name of the Wind actually a good book? Hell yes, it's a good book. There's a reason why Patrick Rothfuss is a figure in the community. And Patrick Rothfuss, if you're ever watching this, no pressure, but write more. God damn it. Yep. What would happen if an elder brain came down with lycanthropy? A werewolf brain. Oh, that question is so out of left field, I don't even know, Scott. Your guess is as good as mine. Part of the problem with that is that some of the elder brain always exists in sort of extended into another dimension. They're sort of hyperspatial. So you would have essentially a giant werewolf. Assuming that when they transform into a werewolf, their body grows around them. I don't know. It's tricky because the elder brains are made up of many, many individuals. So would they split up into hundreds of different werewolves? I don't know. Might be a one-way transformation. Naval combat. I think the DM of my priority game has some grid paper on his desk and basically does a quick calculation. Oh yeah. People would go to coffee shops and actually talk to each other. It would be a nightmare. Yes, a world without the internet. Don't forget, I lived in that world. I lived in the world without the internet. And you're right, it wasn't fun. It sucked. I'm not one of those people that go, no, the good old days. No, bollocks. It wasn't the good old days. You fed information from corrupted sources that twisted everything. That's how we ended up with wars and shit. I think everybody who runs a newspaper should be publicly beaten. Talking to you, New York Times, arseholes. It only affects humanoids. Well, yeah, you're right. Mind flayers aren't humanoids, really, technically. They take over humanoid forms, but they're not inherently a humanoid. They're a squid thing. Any must-read Forgotten Realms book that aren't common knowledge? Empire of the Sands, like the one that deals with Lost Empires, Lost Empires of Faerun. I would say that's required reading. It's really good. And the 4th edition Underdark book is really good as well. They'll become a Dalek. Is there an official stat block for the Elder Brain? Yep. I believe it's actually in the monster manual. Let me check for you. Loud sounds of page turning ensue. Mind Flayer 221. You'd think it would just fall open under that page. Oh, I should put something on those pages to make them sticky. What? Nothing. What? No, it's in Volo's Guide to Monsters, I believe. Oh, which I haven't got it here. Yeah, I think so. Oh, thanks, Jan. Very next comment, Jan. Jan does, yes, it's in Volo's Guide. Yeah, they're in Volo's Guide. I mean, well, we never say never in Dungeons and Dragons, but it's unlikely that an Elder Brain would get lycanthropy. Did you see the New York Times article wishing Marx happy birthday? No, I did recently see the New York Times article where they were dredging up all of that 1980s satanic panic, anti-Dungeons and Dragons further again. And at the very start of their article, it was a YouTube video, I believe. Oh no, it wasn't an article. And at the very start of it, they said largely disproved, not totally disproved, largely disproved. Those assholes, because it sold them a lot of newspapers. All of that nonsense. All of this, yeah, it's just trash. It's absolute trash. All of this, this moral panic stuff which is going on, this left versus right, conservative versus liberal nonsense, is mostly just drummed up rubbish that is accentuated and fueled by these big media platforms which are insinuating themselves into social media and stuff and just stirring everything up. It's like if, you know, police insert people into riots in order to make them violent so that they can use force against them to disperse them. Same sort of thing. These sort of tactics must be rooted out, and the people who do them must be treated like the criminals that they are, because it's very destructive. Ever play Call of Cthulhu? Yes, absolutely. I've got a friend, Alex, who runs an amazing Call of Cthulhu game, and he's just recently bought Curse of Strahd. So I'm hoping that he runs that for us, because he runs a really good horror game. To be fair, Age, it was a lot less likely before you mentioned it in a stream to a bunch of DMs. That's true. What have I done? I don't mind. Oh yeah, the sarcophagus. I had one player running around different towns, separating from the team and unknowingly causing an epidemic. Oh, lovely. Wearalithids. Wearalithid sounds like the sort of thing that that 3.5 edition would come up with. And then you'd have, of course, the epic Wearalithid Slayer would be an epic class option. Boy, they had so much like just nonsense in 3.5 at the end. And then they turned it into Pathfinder and fixed a lot of it. Buff squid men. Well, of course, don't forget the Elder Brain can portion off a chunk of it and make an Illithid golem. So yeah, that is literally a walking brain golem. In my junior high a million years ago, we were forbidden to play Magic the Gathering because of devil imagery. So we started playing RPGs. Exactly. That's exactly right. Why? Because some religious people are threatened by imagination, because religion largely exists in imagination. Well, some people. I mean, people who are actually okay, like they realize the difference, so it's fine. They're not threatened by something because they actually take the effort to understand it. Always needs to be a scapegoat, exactly. Yeah, and that was what the whole Mad Mothers Against Dungeons and Dragons thing was all about, is that basically a woman who couldn't understand that her son died because of he was displaced. He was very, very upset with everything around him, and so she blamed it on the one thing that she didn't understand, which was Dungeons and Dragons. So yeah, and there's that investigator guy who stirred it all up, and he's still slugging his book, and the New York Times is still interviewing the guy. It's like, honestly, ridiculous. I almost wish that yeah, exactly, Reclaimer. There's lots of people of faith who watch my channel and have no problem with it whatsoever. So you won't see me like slinging stones at anybody. I mean, I've had my religious times in the past as well. I've investigated faiths of all sorts. Because, as I say, if you want to understand something, then you need to get into it and understand it, like, fully. So I really do. Needs to be a scapegoat. Good masks of Nyarlathotep to research how to build mysteries. I bought the masks. Is that any good, Scott? The masks of Nyarlathotep. Actually, I'd like to give a shout out to Dungeon Master Johnny, who's been a bit disenfranchised with 5th edition, mainly because of like politics and stuff, which I think one thing that I don't typically do is pay any attention to the tweets or anything like that of Mike Mills or Chris Perkins or anything like that. I don't pay any attention to any hype or background stuff. I really only care when products come out or when they're talking about impending releases of products and things. I don't really care about their thought processes behind stuff and things like that. So I think with Dungeon Master Johnny, he got a little bit disenfranchised because he paid a little bit too much attention to that, and he started to read that into the game itself. This is like a shout out to you, man. And if you just are reading the books, like show me specific passages in there where somebody's political views have insinuated themselves into the game. I don't think that's an entirely accurate assessment. I think you're wearing some blink. You're wearing like a shade of offense at something else, which is tarnished what you're reading. Maybe take a step back and look at it a different way, because it would be a shame to lose Dungeon Master Johnny from the hobby. Yeah, exactly. Dead Zergling. Not cool, man. Funny, but not cool. Yeah, I mean, it is ritual flesh eating. The communion is drinking blood and eating flesh. That's true. It's a ritual cannibalism. That can't be denied. But that's they don't turn into ghouls when they die. That is funny though. Yeah, New York Times is trash. 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 Like, honestly, if they delivered it to my mailbox, I would just use it for garden fertilizer. I wouldn't even open it. Mind you, the same can be said of the local paper that gets delivered to my place. I don't know why they bother. How are we doing? It's an hour. It's an hour, everybody. It's been an hour. Anybody got any more questions for me before we wrap this up? Down for giving some D&D ideas. What would you like? Be specific, man. I should put a header somewhere in my thing that I've never played Baldur's Gate. Should I play Baldur's Gate? Should I? Should I like Twitch stream me playing Baldur's Gate just to satisfy everybody that I've played that damn game? The New York Times has its sick tendrils everywhere. I reach it through social media, like people whinging about it. Yeah. Steampunk technology into the game. You should use artificers and stuff. Common Rider, that's a good question. Oh, there's so many questions coming at me, I can't follow them. Painting a purple worm, start with a base coat of dark purple and then work your way up to mauve and then highlights in light colors. Oh, geez. Sorry, guys, I'm missing a lot of these. Could you do versus videos of monsters? No, Reclaimer, I'm not going to do that. Good, Fabius. Elder brains susceptible. They've got elder brains are susceptible to specific diseases to beholders. They have this one which is basically the equivalent of a mental cold. So they get their own diseases because they're made of alien flesh, but they're not susceptible to most diseases that would affect ordinary humanoids. Elder brains are actually, they sustain themselves psychically. So yeah. Right. Yeah, kobolds aren't evil at birth. They're kobold-minded, kobold-centric. So they're as evil as humans are to other creatures that aren't like them. So kobolds can be trained to be acclimatized to humans and not react evilly to them. So there's many instances of good kobolds. So kobolds are not inherently born evil. Media to consume for D&D inspiration? Everything. Everything. Thanks, Ruben. I will continue to make my own monsters for the channel because I have had a lot of positive feedback for that. How would the Mind Flayer colony handle the collapse of the Elder Brain? They would create a new one with an Elhoon who does the transformation into an Elder Brain. School, I'm going to have to go back and... I have a player playing a Dragonborn cleric of Bahamut. He has been slaughtering kobolds but is having a change of heart. Yeah, absolutely. Because Bahamut didn't create kobolds. Tiamat did. So in that respect, they were evil from the start, but they don't have to be evil any more than drakes have to be evil. Most drakes are kind of evil. But yeah. So a lot of the spawn of Tiamat are inherently evil, but kobolds are a bit more free-willed because they're intelligent, so they get to make up their mind whether they're evil or not. And as I say, environment as well. So certainly, I'd have that Dragonborn player come across some peaceful kobolds. Yeah, meeting good kobolds. For example, I had a Dragonborn cleric that was in the game as an NPC, and he had a cleric sidekick, a little minion called Squirt. Who was well loved by the characters in the game. They didn't react negatively to Squirt because he was in the company of a cleric of a good deity, Soon. What sort of dragon would I create? Something like an extra planar dragon, something that like a Far Realm dragon. I'd be right up with a Far Realm dragon. Beholder dragon. A mighty Gluestick monster manual? Well, it could happen. Now they've got enough time to actually sit down and write. Could an Elder Brain be hacked, turn the Mind Flayers into hippies? Yeah. That sounds like a great idea. Yes, Kurtelmuk is still trapped in a big maze. Oh yes, sorry. Ultralithid. Thanks, bud. Do I have a preferred gaming group size? No more than 5, generally. I've gamed with 11, running a Palladium game where half of them didn't know the rules, and I still managed that, but it was painful. Most of them didn't actually do much, but we still went around the circle in every round. No, I don't have any players that are part-time. We all meet up every week, and that's kind of a requirement for my playing with somebody actually is regular games. Yeah, absolutely. Kobold could certainly learn of Bahamut and want to worship them. In a way, they would be born knowing of Bahamut's existence through a sort of a genetic memory. The Burrowlings. I'll put it down on the list. I'm not familiar with those guys. Why don't towns have more aerial defense systems? Why so many monsters that fly? Seems like it would have an obvious staple of many towns to deter attacks. Basically, a big load of town guards archers would be pretty devastating against any sort of winged attacker. Yeah. And dragons don't actually fly very fast. Somebody pointed that out to me the other day, that the top flight speed of a dragon is not actually that fast. When you compare it to something like the whip crack speed of a peregrine falcon, dragons are ponderously slow. You could hit them with a ballista. Slards, yeah, I did a big video on Slardy. Whoa. Any tips on making combat interesting with just one character? Don't have things gang up on them, because large groups of monsters will quickly kill them. Just have interesting combos of environment and monster versus them. Things that challenge them. Hey Jared. Use any fun gimmick creatures that can only be defeated by a series of weird actions and rituals. For example, a ghost that only takes damage if they're between two mirrors. Wow, that's a good idea. Yeah, sort of. Things that like are being fed their power through a gateway that can be closed is a favourite of mine. Gods could do that. Merchant of Venice Henchman. Ever thought of doing a video on the creative races from the Age of Thunder? Yes, that's pretty much next on my list. I've done the Dawn War now. Now I can move on to the Age of Thunder. I might do a little video on the Blue Age as well, talking about what Toril was like with its original sun when the world was basically covered in ocean. Bookworms. What's my favourite quest? Break down door, kill monster. In Pathfinders, you guys are... They die fast, yeah. Dragons do die fast. Yep. Well, I think I'm going to put that video on the Inevitables to the top of my list, because I want to do it as well. So we've got a video on the Lich coming up and the Inevitables. The Lich video obviously is going to take me a few days. Thanks. Alright guys, sorry for all of you who didn't get your questions answered because I just couldn't keep up with the pace. I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to go and get some food, and I'm going to carry on doing some sculpture and some artwork. And I'm going to start doing some research on that Lich video, including the recipe for creating a Lich. Favorite 3rd level spell? Wish. Yeah, use minions in your mobs as well. So that's give them the same sort of attacks and bonuses, but give them very few hit points. Okay, everybody. Thanks a lot. Lovely to see you. I'll be back again, same time, 7 p.m. California time, next week, same day. I'll catch you then soon. Thank you for all of the support. I'm really, really looking forward to creating a lot more content for you guys. Stay safe. Run good games. If you can't be good, be careful.